Good afternoon. I welcome everyone here and would like to call to order this public hearing for Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. This meeting is regarding the Richland County School District 1 appeal of Fiscal Watch, and we do have a quorum for our meeting. I would like to begin by asking if the parties that will be presenting on behalf of the school district and the State Department would introduce themselves.
Yes, I'm Tom Barlow and Dwayne Mazik from Halligan Mahoney Williams for Richland.
Thank you.
Kathy Hazelwood for the department.
Thank you. Procedurally, Richland County School District 1 will have the first 10 minutes, and then the state superintendent will have 15 minutes. Ms. Hazelwood on her behalf, and then Richland County School District 1 will have the last 10 minutes. At the conclusion of the arguments, we will adjourn to discuss in executive session this matter. So if you are ready, Mr. Barlow, we'll begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Tom Barlow with Halligan Mahoney Williams. My law partner, Dwayne Mazik, is here. Cheryl Harris, the board chair, is here. Dr. Craig Witherspoon, the superintendent of the district, is here, and Sherry Matthews Hazel, the CFO, is also here from Richland 1. And we appreciate the opportunity to appear before you here today. We've submitted our brief with exhibits. It's fairly comprehensive. I'm not going to just get up here and tell you what's in the brief. I'm going to try to hit the high spots. But there are two main arguments for this appeal. The first one is that our position is that the superintendent misapplied South Carolina Code 5920-90C, which is the Fiscal Watch statute, because the state superintendent ignored language that requires a material significant deviation that could have a significant effect on the financial condition of the district before a fiscal watch may issue. That was not present here. The second argument that we have is that the timeline shows that the Fiscal Watch declaration in this instance was arbitrary and capricious and not based on Department of Ed normal procedures or any real standards other than the whim of the former superintendent. Now, at the outset, we want you all to know that the district takes P-cards seriously, understands that this is an opportunity to improve its checks and balances, policies, and processes, but Fiscal Watch was simply not warranted here, and I'm going to take the arguments in reverse. First of all, we think that the Fiscal Watch was arbitrary and capricious for the following reasons and based on the timeline that we've submitted in our brief as accompanied by the exhibits. First of all, the original notice to the district that a Fiscal Watch might be under consideration was in March of 22. District employee Brady, that you've read about in the briefs, he was reported by the district for P-card misuse during the pandemic, was buying PPE, or said he was, but he was actually not buying PPE. He was abusing his privileges and basically stealing from the district. It's important to know that the district reported Mr. Brady. It wasn't auditors. It wasn't the Department of Education. He was reported, and the loss was around $20,000. In April of 2022, a South Carolina Department of Education auditor said as follows: the position that Mr. Brady had has been changed to where even PPE emergency purchases have to be signed off multiple times before being authorized to purchase. It is of my opinion that taking the maliciousness of the employee to defraud the district, that even the very best of controls and procedures would not have prevented the financial loss the district incurred, $20,696.05. The district has very strong procedures and even has an internal auditor that reports to the school board, who performs routine internal audits to ensure that district personnel are following district procedures and/or policies. Taking that into consideration, I do not believe the department should go forward with a Fiscal Watch declaration at this time. This is April of 22. And on April 25th of 22, the superintendent says, we appreciate what Richland 1 has done. We're not going to issue a Fiscal Watch letter. Fast forward to September of 2022. Mr. Brady is in the news again. He's being indicted. And that's where the Department of Education decides that they're going to come back in. But it's under the auspices is that the district is under some type of investigation by a state agency, which it was not. So first of all, the initial investigation or this Fiscal Watch notice was in March on the basis that there was some state investigation of the district, which there was not. It was an investigation of Mr. Brady. Second, same thing in September, we're going to come in because there's a state investigation, which there was actually not. It was an investigation of Mr. Brady. Basically, the district had 1 day to prepare for an audit by the Department of Ed. This is all in the brief. The audit finds numerous points of control and policy that should be tightened up, but importantly, there's no findings in this audit that any of these issues were material and significant. And that's a point that we make in the brief as well. Particularly given the district's overall budget, and I made an error in the brief, it's not $250 million, it's about half $500 million. So the percentage of money that we're talking about here resulting from Mr. Brady's theft is very insignificant. There was no notice given to the district in the fall of '22 that a fiscal watch was being reconsidered after April. The only notice was that they were going to be audited. The district responded to the audit on December 6th of 2022 with a plan of how to address what was being written in the audit, as well as their response to the audit. And 32 minutes later, the superintendent declares a fiscal watch. Okay, the letter was already drafted and not even time to review the district's response to the audit before the fiscal watch was issued on December 6th of 2022. We're not aware of any other district being placed on a fiscal watch due to a fraud or misappropriation of this amount committed by a single employee. Now, our position is that the Department of Ed has to follow its own procedures and standards and can't just be left to unfettered whim of the superintendent because something's in the news and wants to make an example out of a school district. So first argument is that this is simply arbitrary and capricious. It's an abuse of any discretion by the superintendent to issue a fiscal watch on this basis. Our second argument is that the fiscal watch was directly contrary to the statute 5920-90 subsection C. Again, I noted that the initial investigations were based on the subsection that has 3 little i's after that, which is because the district is under investigation, the superintendent can issue a fiscal watch. Okay, but twice the district was not under investigation. That was the original try. But after the audit, the superintendent focused on little v, Roman numeral 5, and the section is quoted in the brief. But the basic problem with relying on subsection 5 is that subsection requires identified deficiencies to be significant and material in light of the district's overall financial condition. That's the only reading of the statute that makes any sense. The outside of the auditors of the district, Malden and Jenkins, said that these are not material and significant. Despite auditing standards that would have required an analysis of materiality or significance that we say in the brief, governmental auditing standards would have required the department to identify what they're noting in their audit and determine whether it's material or significant. There are none of those findings in the department's audit. Really, the focus of the audit is on gotchas that are detailed on page 6 of our brief, involving a few deviations that they found in almost 4,000 transactions involving P-cards. And again, we'd submit that if you did an audit, a comparable audit of most districts in South Carolina, you'd find a few instances where P-cards have been misused or people haven't reviewed P-card use like they probably should have. Now, the bottom line here is that Mr. Brady's theft was less than a tiny fraction of a percent of the district's entire budget. To satisfy that statute, these things, and the words are right in there, they have to be significant or material enough to put the district on a fiscal watch notice under the statute such that it affects their overall financial condition. And that was not the case here. Again, you have to have meaningful standards. You can't just have the superintendent apply a fiscal watch just on the basis of I said so, or because I think this is a problem, I'm going to declare a fiscal watch. It has to relate back to the statute and the standards that are in there. It has to be significant, it has to be material, and there is no finding of that by either the department's audit, the outside auditors, or anybody else in this case. Now, again, Richland One isn't trying to ignore this. As the own auditor of the department noted, district has solid procedures in place, but there's always room for improvement. We know that, and the district isn't going to ignore that, and they've taken steps to address it already in their response to the department. And any minor deviations identified in the audit here is just simply not enough to support a fiscal watch under the statute, and we think the fiscal watch should be overturned on that basis. And I appreciate all your time, and thanks for the opportunity again.
Thank you. All right, next, we will have representation for the state superintendent. And just as a reminder, it's 15 minutes.
I've never spoken for 15 minutes in my life, so you guys can start the clock. May it please the State Board of Education, I'm Kathy Hazelwood, and I represent the new Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver, in the Richland County School District 1's appeal of the former state superintendent's declaration of fiscal watch. We are in the multiverse of two administrations. The Fiscal Practices Act of Section 592090, C1A, Roman numeral 5, provides that the state superintendent shall declare a fiscal watch if the department identifies significant deficiencies, material weaknesses, direct and material legal noncompliance, or management letter comments which, in the opinion of the department, the aggregate effect of the reported issues has or could have a significant effect on the financial condition of the district. That's a lot. So let's unpack it for a sec. The superintendent shall declare a fiscal watch if the department identifies significant deficiencies and material weaknesses which, in the opinion of the department, could have a significant effect on the financial condition of the district. The district did become a concern following the arrest of a former employee some 6 months after the district knew of the procurement card problems, P-card, and I'm going to say P-card from here on out, P-card misuse. This detail is lacking in the appellant's lengthy timeline. The employee resigned in May 2021 following 11 months of employment. The district received an initial notice of intent to declare a fiscal watch on March 28, 2022, due to the ongoing related criminal investigation subsection of the fiscal watch designation. And I want to be clear. If you make the distinction that the district is not under an investigation when it's an employee, a former employee, then this section makes no sense. It's always going to be an employee who is under investigation, and the district would be a party in some way, shape, or form, either as the employer, but it's going to always be an employee that's the issue in a criminal investigation. And we have absolutely had criminal investigations. I would direct you, if you would like to read more about Sumter. Sumter had a fiscal watch finding some time ago because of an employee fraud. Appellant makes much of the memo to the superintendent from an SCDE finance employee, and it's not an auditor. Mr. Haven, Daniel Haven, is a finance person, not an auditor. The district made changes to require, he noted that the district made changes to require PPE emergency purchases to be signed off multiple times before being authorized to purchase, as well as noting that the district had very strong procedures and its own internal auditor. The intent, so Molly, former Superintendent Spearman, received that memo from Mr. Haven. The group reconvened, and the intent was withdrawn. The intent to find a fiscal watch was withdrawn following staff interviews and district correspondence to include Mr. Haven's memo. The criminal investigation continued under SLED's investigation and state grand jury indictment. Again, that Fiscal Practices Act states that during an ongoing related investigation, which this was an ongoing related investigation tied to a school district. The former superintendent requested the agency's Office of Auditing Services, all auditors, to review the district's very strong procedures to ensure that the district had indeed implemented the required internal controls in its financial systems. And this is very much trust but verify, as the saying goes. And we did trust the district for 9 months to get their financial house in order. But the but the audit made clear our trust was misplaced. We trusted that the district would, and I quote from its April 8th, 2022 letter, Respondents, my Exhibit B, "In the event of unusual circumstances, for example, pandemic, controls will now require additional separation of duties when ordering and receiving supplies for pandemic or other such circumstances. Note that such controls are in place under normal circumstances," end quote. So during a pandemic, our normal internal controls apparently are not in place. Whether the district is in normal circumstances or not, it has failed on multiple occasions, approximately 290 occasions during a 5-month period, to follow its written P-card procedures, or to update its written P-card procedures, or to update its, or to actually reflect its compliance, or to take to heart its own internal auditor report. Please take note of the number 290. The appellant would have you believe that every transaction during that 5-month period was reviewed. Auditing services would still be in the district if they were going to review 3,400 plus transactions. Auditing, 545 transactions were reviewed, 545. And of those 545 transactions, our auditors made 290 noted findings. So more than half noted findings. I would have welcomed an opportunity to sit with our auditors and dissect the district's auditor's letter that followed the audit, our audit findings. The audit letter is in the appellant's list of exhibits dated December 14th. Today was the first opportunity I had to review it, but I had no time. So without the benefit of the auditor's expertise, I will assume that the district's outside auditor's P-card review and recommendation was actually a concurrence of our findings, since 3 of the 4 recommendations come from the SCDE findings. 1, timely review and document the review of statements. Timely review and document the review of statements. Follow district procedures when cardholders fail to follow procedures. So the district has a policy in place that if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing with the P card, you could be disciplined, except that is hit or miss. And regularly review P-card policies to ensure with splitting thresholds, prohibited merchant controls, et cetera. And frankly, the devil's definitely in the details of that, et cetera. The district's auditors opined that if the school district implemented the above recommendations, it would minimize its risk of financial loss. All true, and something I would assume a district would do after being in the news for many, many months. Fiscal Watch is the lowest level of fiscal concern in the Fiscal Practices Act. Fiscal Watch is appropriate after the Office of Auditing Services identified multiple material weaknesses following a significant related criminal investigation of the district's P-card use, which in our opinion, and the district's auditing firm, could have a significant effect on the financial condition of the district. Our P-card findings speak for themselves. I respectfully request that you, the State Board of Education, affirm the state superintendent's declaration of Fiscal Watch in Richland County School District 1. Thank you. I'll take any questions if you should have one.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood. All right, now I would like to ask Mr. Barlow to come back. And you will have 10 minutes to address that.
Thank you. I don't have anywhere near 10 minutes of follow-up, so mercifully. Yeah, what you didn't hear at all in this argument was why this was significant, why this was material, how it affected the overall financial condition of the district. What you heard is that there were actually, Richland One was never actually given a number of how many transactions were reviewed by the department. They determined it was close to 4,000. What you didn't hear was any dollar figure out of any of that there was any financial loss to the district out of any of those 4,000 transactions. So the leap from saying we found some incidents here to a significant impact on the overall financial condition of the district based on the audit or whatever they were looking at to determine this fiscal watch is just not there, and that's what the statute requires. The statute requires, and it's quoted multiple times in here, is that the issues have to have a significant effect on the financial condition of the district. And I will submit to you that the $20,000 that Mr. Brady took in a $500 million budget is only a tiny fraction of a percent. And under any accounting standards, the Malden and Jenkins standards, or the government, the GAGAS standards that the SCDE's auditors were supposedly following, there have to be findings of that in those audits. And there were not any findings of that would support the fiscal watch here that was issued. Now, we know it's the lowest level of fiscal watch, but it's still a stigma to the district, and it's unwarranted based on the circumstances here. The other thing you didn't hear is why 32 minutes after the district submits its response, it is automatically put on a fiscal watch that it had no notice of any intent to be put on a fiscal watch. The former superintendent says in her letter, initial letter in March of 2022, that this is how we do it. We send you a notice that you might get put on fiscal watch. We give you at least 10 days to respond, and then we'll think about it. None of that happened again. I mean, there was not any indication to the district that it was going to be subject or could be put on fiscal watch after it was pretty much released from that threat in April of 2022. So essentially what you have here is a surprise on the way out for the former superintendent that the district was not anticipating, didn't get a good opportunity to respond at all, didn't get their response considered. So in addition to having what doesn't amount to significant material deficiencies that are within the statute, just the whole process, the department didn't follow its own procedures and processes here. And the decision's merely arbitrary and capricious and not based on any fixed or recognized Department of Ed standards. So we appreciate your time here today, and thanks for the consideration. This is a very important issue to Richland One and all of its constituents, and we hope you all make the right decision here and reverse the fiscal watch.
Before you sit down, Mr.
Sure.
Miller, does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you
Thank you.
very much. All right, if no board members have any questions regarding this, is there any objection for the board moving into executive session? All right, hearing none, we will adjourn to go into executive session and deliberate on the information that was presented here today. We are going to move, for the board members, we're going to move upstairs to room 806, and then at the close of executive session, we'll return down here. So please take anything you need for that. Yes, you can leave stuff as well. Also, I should have mentioned, just for the record, along with us, we'll have Mr. Tyler, our general counsel for the board, and Mr. Gunner, the deputy general counsel for the state board, accompanying us. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for their patience, and we do declare this meeting back in open session. The State Board of Education has deliberated on the issue. One thing I wanted to share before we move into that, though, our new members that are here joining us for the first time today, when we vote by show of hands, you will abstain from voting for this. All right. Now, after that time of deliberation, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move that the State Board of Education affirm the State Superintendent's declaration of a fiscal watch for Richland County School District 1.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All right, today is a little different because we will vote by a show of hands. So if you are approving that affirmation, please show your hand now. Any opposed by like sign? then that motion does carry. So we appreciate everyone's time today. We appreciate the State Board as well for staying longer today so that we could go in and have our public hearing today. And if there's no other business to come before the board today, then I welcome a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Wonderful. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, this meeting is adjourned.